TV Gracia presenta entrevistas impactantes, hechos impactantes, abusos, violaciones, maltratos, cometidos bajo el nombre de alguna religión, narrados por las propias víctimas. Sea usted testigo aquí en Entrevistas Impactantes.
¿Cómo te sentiste el día que recibes la llamada en la que te dicen que el Papa Francisco quiere conocerte y hablar contigo del tema de los abusos?
I thought it was a golden opportunity to help that prospect. I joined in good faith, believing that I was going to be part of something that would really help to change our church.
¿Confiaste en lo que te dijo el Papa en esa reunión?
I did. The Pope, when we met, didn't say a great deal. But he appeared to listen. But I was told at the very first meeting that we were not to deal with individual cases. And I made the point at the first meeting that for me, as a Christian, it's very much about the individual. It's about love. It's about protecting the most vulnerable people on the planet, who are our children. The Commission only meets twice a year. I thought that the Commission was going to be recommending immediate action. I thought it would be doing things and acting very, very quickly, because, you know, it only takes a few seconds for a child's life to be blighted and devastated by abuse. The Papal Commission moves at a slow pace. It's looking at broader issues that will not save children who are being raped and abused today or tomorrow, and that's where the Pope is failing.
¿Es un problema de decisión o compromiso del Papa o un problema de funcionamiento del Vaticano?
The Vatican is a very dysfunctional place, and there are many people in the Vatican who do not want action on this issue for all sorts of reasons. They don't want change. Anybody who covers up, whether they're a priest or anybody else, anybody who covers up or protects an abuser is as much a part of the crime as the abuser themselves, because to witness or to enable is to be part of the crime.
Aseguras que la creación de esta comisión no fue idea del Papa, sino que responde más a motivos económicos. ¿Por qué defiendes este argumento?
Because of course the Church is the wealthiest institution on the planet. Its priority is the defense of its own wealth, as well as its reputation. It doesn't want to lose any of its personnel. It seems to want to protect them at any cost. When I was in America a few years ago at a conference, I was listening to an American attorney who had just prosecuted a Catholic priest, a Monsignor. But I remember this attorney saying to the audience how much money the church had spent on defending that one priest, which was something like $12 million. Spending any amount of money to defend its reputation, to defend the indefensible. When he knew he was guilty, everybody knew he was guilty, he was found guilty,
Peter, tú fuiste víctima de abusos cuando eras un niño. ¿Cómo cambió esto tu vida?
I've been very fortunate in so many ways that I've maintained my faith in a God. I've been surrounded by a lot of love as I've grown up, and I've been able to deal with the abuse. But I will never forget it, and I still have a weekly therapy session now, and I may need that for the rest of my life. And these are crimes that should simply not happen to anybody, but they've happened to millions of children. And to be abused also by somebody who purports to be of God is also to attack your very soul.
¿Quiénes cometieron esos abusos?
I was abused by a family member and 2 Jesuit priests at my secondary school. And that priest also abused my brother, who was at the school 6 years before me. But the first abuse I suffered was at the hands of my primary school head teacher when I was just a little boy.
¿Y cuándo te empiezas a dar cuenta de que lo que está pasando es un abuso que hacen de un menor?
I didn't understand what was happening. I knew it wasn't good, but it was happening. It was being done by people who I thought loved me. And so the child is very confused, and you grow up feeling very confused. And then in my case, it happened again and again. All I knew was the next 20 years, I always felt worthless, I always felt dirty, I always felt something wasn't right, I always felt different, I felt isolated, alone, even after I got married and had children. And then when my children were 6 and 7 years of age, that was one of the things that made me realize that what had happened to me was so terribly, terribly wrong. Because if someone had done what was done to me to my children, I would kill whoever did that, you know.
Did you feel guilty?
I don't know whether guilty is the right feeling, but I certainly felt as though I must have done something wrong to attract this behavior, even though that's completely illogical. I look back and I think, if I was able to, had I been able to speak out about those things, how many other children may have been saved by me speaking out? If only I could have spoken out. But what we have to remember is that abuse is such a deep-rooted psychological attack on a child that it leaves the child just unable, most of the time, to speak out or to deal with this. And that's why we cannot, in a way, put all the responsibility onto the child for speaking out. Even today, we have to protect our children.
Peter, ya para terminar, ¿qué crees que debería hacer la Iglesia si realmente quiere acabar con la pederastia dentro de su seno?
The Pope himself should put his hands up and to admit to those things, as indeed do many other clerics. They need to confess their failings and their sins. Change must happen. You know, around the world, the people of the church are beginning to rise up. They are beginning to realize that the institution itself has at its core a corrupt element that leads to the abuse of children.
Peter Saunders, muchas gracias.
You're very welcome. Gracias.
Durante el papado de Francisco, la Iglesia Católica no ha hecho nada para terminar con los abusos a niños por parte del clero. Y el mismo Papa es parte del problema, asegura Peter Saunders, miembro de la Comisión del Vaticano contra la Pederastia. Por declaraciones como esa, el grupo que Bergoglio creó para abordar el problema, la Pontificia Comisión para la Protección de los Menores, le pidió a Saunders que se tomara un descanso. El británico, también víctima de un cura abusador, sobreviviente, dice él, se unió al organismo el año pasado y ha sido desde entonces su voz más crítica. Yo me uní solo porque consideraba que el ente podía ayudar a proteger a los niños. Pensé que su trabajo consistiría en tomar medidas contra individuos concretos, curas abusadores. Al fin y al cabo, es lo que todo el mundo piensa, que es un organismo para proteger a los niños. Pero nada más lejos de la realidad, asegura. Su tarea es crear políticas y lineamientos para establecer cuáles son las mejores prácticas para evitar los abusos, explica. Y mientras, cada día escuchamos de casos de abusos por parte de curas. Saunders cuenta que la comisión tiene 70 miembros geográficamente dispersos, lo que hace difícil que se reúnan físicamente para deliberar y tomar decisiones. Lo hacen 2 veces al año, demasiado poco para ser efectivo. Además, tiene una secretaría formada por 4 miembros, todos ellos muy cercanos al Vaticano. Pero para que sea un esfuerzo serio para terminar con los abusos, estas personas no deberían ser leales a la Iglesia Católica, sino totalmente independientes, cree él. Y de la misma manera, critica el hecho de que la oficina del organismo esté dentro del Vaticano. Debería estar en Roma y no en el microestado, porque así sería accesible para todos los ciudadanos. Por todo ello, Saunders no cree que la comisión sea un esfuerzo serio para terminar con la pederastia. Es una cuestión de relaciones públicas para lavar la cara a la Iglesia Católica ante los constantes escándalos relacionados con el tema, asegura. Un trabajo propio del mejor en relaciones públicas que la Iglesia podría tener, el Papa Francisco. Pero crear la comisión nunca fue su proyecto, sino que lo arrastraron a ello, dice. Según Saunders, la idea fue del cardenal Sean Patrick O'Malley, el arzobispo de Boston, Estados Unidos. De hecho, fue él quien presentó la Pontificia Comisión para la Protección de Menores el 5 de diciembre de 2013, y se le conoce como la punta de lanza contra la pederastia dentro de la Iglesia. Pero Saunders no cree en la pureza de sus motivos. El cardenal O'Malley se dio cuenta de cuánto dinero estaba perdiendo la diócesis de Boston por todo el escándalo de encubrimiento de decenas de curas pederastas, una historia que cuenta la película ganadora del Oscar Spotlight, y fue él que empujó para que se creara una comisión que parece hacer algo, pero que realmente no hace nada, dice. El Papa no está comprometido con el tema, insiste, aunque fue él quien lo invitó a participar en el organismo para combatir la pederastia en el seno de la Iglesia. TV Gracia presentó Entrevistas impactantes. Recibimos que usted despierta del engaño de la religión y comienza desde hoy a crecer en la gracia de Jesucristo. Para más información, visite o escríbanos a Le declaramos bendecido con toda bendición